Hello and welcome to the thing that we're recording.
The Saturated Industry Podcast.
By Danny.
And Steve.
And we are at, not like the end of the release order, but this is our last recording before Infinity War.
Yep, it's like 3-4 days until Infinity War.
Oh, even sooner for me, because I'm going to go see it the midnight show. Apparently Steve is not a true believer.
I got work.
Yeah, whatever. We're going to do Thor Ragnarok, and it's going to sound like I hate this movie. But I just want to assure you at the off that I do. That I'm tired of Marvel. I don't know if it's that there's so many Marvel movies or just the fact that we've been watching one a week for the last this year.
This entire year. For like 4 months.
Sometimes more than, like, we watched 2 this week. I just want to give this movie a fair shake because it's probably a lot better than I think it is, but I'm coming from complete Marvel overload. I mean, put it this way, our podcast is aptly named. I feel drenched by by Marvel, by, I don't want to say mediocrity.
How pervasive.
But there's so many of the Marvel movies have so many similarities to all of the other Marvel movies that watching a lot of them, like one after another, just kind of bleeding. They just start to bleed into each other and become one giant movie.
I mean, they are called cookie cutter movies for a reason. And
they share themes and they share kind of overarching plots and they share characterization and
humor style.
Well, I mean, okay, to be fair, the style of humor in this movie is a bit out there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I wanted to have a preface, I guess, this time because there are definitely a lot of things to like about this movie. But here's a list of things we didn't. Go.
The first time I saw this movie, I'd seen like the teaser trailer, and that was it. And going into it, I had no idea what to expect, and it was not what I expected at all.
Okay.
And I didn't know how I wanted to feel about it when I came out. This was very strange to me, just because it's so out there.
It is
compared to all the other Marvel movies, which is a good thing and a bad thing.
But also very much the same as all the rest of Marvel movies. That's the problem. It has a lot of out there elements, but it's as if those out there elements are on, what's the edge of a black hole? The Schwarzschild radius?
Yeah, the Schwarzschild
They're
radius.
Like right there. So all the weird things are like right at the edge here, and they're being dragged towards the fucking Cate Blanchett center, which is a fucking nothing bad guy shows up with insurmountable powers, and we have to get a MacGuffin to stop her.
Why does the goddess of death have swords? She's not the goddess of swords. Odin makes this point later on in the movie.
You don't need the hammer to make lightning because you're the god of it.
Why didn't she, when she's fighting the army of Asgard, when all the army ran at her, they just died?
Yeah,
and they all died.
They all dropped dead, and they're like, okay, I will. Let's do what that lady says.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense to me. But this movie doesn't make any sense. Oh my god, I don't understand even her as a character. So she wants to be Queen of Asgard, almost sort of out of spite, because she wanted it back then, and Odin wouldn't let her have it, and he locked her away, and then Odin died, and now she's back, and she's like, well, fuck you, Odin, I'm going to be Queen of Asgard. But you're killing everyone in Asgard. If you kill all the Asgardians, you're Queen of nothing.
Yeah.
Asgard, I guess that's kind of also the point of the movie. Asgard's not a place, it's people, but it's
also a place.
Yeah. You don't. If you kill everyone, you're not ruling over anything. You just have earned yourself a lot of real estate. Like you're not the queen of anybody, so you can't be queen of a place. There has to be subjects.
Well, she is the goddess of death. She could just reanimate them like she did with her soldiers.
Yeah, but they're not people. They don't they're thralls. Like they don't have any. It's not the
agency.
same. You know what I mean?
I know.
I know. It's like meaning. There's no meaning. Like this movie doesn't have any meaning. And I can't take it anymore. Like most of the Marvel movies don't have a lot of meaning. There are a few kernels of true meaning in the MCU, and most of them have to do with like Cap and Iron Man.
Yeah.
And I'm drawing a blank. Like that's kind of it. Cap and Iron Man. Like Iron Man is it's the kind of science-y nature of like Iron Man is the mad scientist who thinks all of humanity's problems can be solved by science and technology.
Just think hard enough.
And Cap is the everyman who believes that no, what we need is love. Like kind of, you know,
we just have to do the right thing.
Yeah, we have to be excellent to each other, and that's sort of, and which has no bearing on this movie whatsoever. It's just, again, like I said, it's this fatigue of watching these movies that have no meaning, and there's no internal consistency. Like nothing that happens in the movie matters because nobody can die. People, like, there's the scene where she does kill all of Asgard's army in 15 seconds flat.
Yeah.
Like, nobody, for God's sake, she kills the entire. This is the army that through all of the Thor movies so far, they've been saying that their job is to go from world to world.
They're like the
peacekeepers.
Yeah,
they're the intergalactic peacekeepers. She kills all of them in 15 seconds. At one point, a guy literally impales her with a spear, and she just pulls it out and kills him, and that's it. So I guess she can't be killed.
Yeah.
She just can't be killed.
Yeah,
so,
once she's on Asgard anyway.
Well, she draws her power from Asgard. Nobody said she has to stay on Asgard to have the power.
That's true. She's just more powerful.
And she's on Norway at the start, and she crushes Mjolnir. So immediately upon emerging from wherever she's been kept, and not even having set foot on Asgard, just the very fact that Asgard exists gives her enough power to stop the only kind of. There's very few fucking linchpins in the Marvel Universe that gives you a metric for how powerful or not powerful things or people are. And Thor's fucking hammer was one of them, and now it's
the
gone.
entire reason Vision is trusted.
Yeah, and now
that hammer.
Exactly, and so that kind of reinforces my theory of maybe Vision is just more powerful than we think, because apparently all it takes is power. And
well, yeah, he is definitely more powerful than we think. He's made out of an Infinity
Well
Stone.
then, okay,
and
fine, Steve. I'm sorry, I should have clarified. More powerful than the Avengers think. They took that as a sign that he was trustworthy. Maybe it's a sign that he is so phenomenally powerful that they shouldn't trust him. Okay, so we're done taking this seriously. We're done taking, like, if you're watching this movie, I assume Infinity War is going to be kind of serious because it's by the Russo brothers, who are the only people attempting to bring some grit and gravitas back into the MCU.
Yeah, I imagine it's going to feel similar to
Winter Soldier and Civil War.
Yeah,
but because every other movie, pretty much since Winter Soldier, it's just been, you know, if you remember that, you ever see Inconvenient Truth, where you saw kind of, there was like dips and troughs, and the what do you call it, the heat and CO2 levels were like this, and then all of a sudden they hit something and just fucking skyrocketed. So like somewhere at the end of phase 2 we hit that turning point. There is too much carbon dioxide in the writer's room, and they are just churning out this fucking bonkers nonsense. But good points. Jeff Goldblum's in this movie.
It's just Jeff Goldblum in space with a blue line on his chin.
Jeff Goldblum, being one of the race of people that the Collector is, we think, because they both have lip decorations.
Yeah.
And they're both weird, and they both have very specific focuses, and apparently are, you know, just innately, like, people just do what they say kind of thing.
Innately getting positions of power. I liked the start of this movie all the way up until where we meet Hela and she invades Asgard. Feels like a Thor movie. It feels like Thor 1, feels like Thor 2. It has the humor like that the more recent Marvel movies has, but it feels like a Thor movie. And then Thor gets kicked out of the Bifrost and it turns into Asgardians of the Galaxy.
See, I liked Thor, the first part. The Thor humor, he wasn't, well, okay, except for the part where he's talking to Sartre. Aside from that, like, if you just cut that out and take that as, okay, that's like a pre-credits thing, they're just making a joke.
Yeah.
But the scene where he arrives back to Asgard and there's the play going on with Matt Damon playing Thor, or playing Loki.
Yeah.
Like, that was a little silly, but it wasn't like Taika Waititi, you know, What We Do in the Shadows silly. That was sort of a good compromise between Taika Waititi's comedy sensibilities and the actual tone of Thor.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of a good mix. Like, they found a nice even ground there and then abandoned it completely.
Yeah, especially because the play had me laughing out loud. Even this time, on my like fourth rewatching of the film.
No, it's good. It's a good element, and they don't. There's no consistency.
Yeah.
Which.
This movie, out of all the movies, one thing we like praised Marvel for at the start was consistency of character, and then in this movie, Thor is a completely different character.
Yeah.
He's way different than what he was in Thor 1 and 2, even in the Avengers films, where he's a lot more serious in the older films than in this.
Yeah.
And even talks a lot differently
He
in
talks
this.
differently. Like, he talks differently. I guess maybe...
And not just him.
Yeah, like, I guess they kind of think we don't care or something. Like, or that not enough people like Thor, so let's try and change him and make him different. But I like Thor. I mean, he's silly, and I wouldn't, like, rate his movies super highly in the MCU.
Yeah.
But he's like, I like him as a character, and I liked the way he talked, and I liked what he brought. Like, if Thor comes back into Infinity War talking like he talks now, which is basically just a dumb Tony Stark, then what does he bring to the team anymore? He's not different anymore. He's not Thor. He's not like this kind of fish out of water, weird
God in the mortal realm.
Yeah, exactly. Like, every time there's like a handful of times in the movie, aside from the kind of the first part, like the play and whatnot, and the end when he's on the ship and has some solemn conversations with people. In the kind of messy middle part, there's a handful of times where he talks like Thor, and every time he did it, I was like, I wish you would keep doing that. I wish you would keep doing that. You would be the thing around which everything else orbits. Everybody else can be silly and weird and have their own crazy senses of humor, and you can have this fucking bizarre rock monster who's so meta and self-referential that it's like they don't even give a shit anymore. Anyway, but I want Thor to be Thor. Like when the Stan Lee cameo, when he comes in, he's going to cut Thor's hair, and Thor, even though all the way up until now he's been doing this crazy quippy thing and telling his stories and saying like all the time, then he goes, "You shall not cut the hair of Thor, or I shall destroy you." That's awesome. That's Thor. That's what I like about Thor, is that he talks to people that way, and universally everybody he talks to like that, except for other Asgardians, goes, "What are you doing? Like, why do you talk that way?" Because he does it a little bit with the Grandmaster as well, and that's perfect for Jeff Goldblum to play off. Like, oh, it's a little sparkles coming out of your... Like, it's great. It's great the way he does that. It's like, I am the god of... And he rips his hands out the chair, and he's like, oh, that's cute, man. Like,
I agree. It would have been great if Thor was the grounded rock around which all of the crazy Taika Waititi stuff orbited. It would have worked as well, because it would have been Thor out of water in the crazy world of Sakaar.
No, but it would have been... it would have subverted the Thor thing, where Thor is the weird guy in the normal situation. You would have taken Thor, and us watching the movie, knowing Thor as a character, we'd be like, Thor is the most normal thing happening here, you know? But instead, Thor just gets swept up in this craziness, and loses the character. Like, Thor is lost in this movie. They just abandon any notion of what Thor was meant to be, according to his trajectory from the earlier films. And
I would argue that he does get, like, sort of at the end of this movie anyway, he does get this finishing of an arc of accepting the responsibility of the throne, finally, after 3 movies.
That's bullshit. That's complete bullshit. No, it is complete bullshit. It doesn't ring true. It's lazy storytelling, because you just did whatever the fuck you want for an hour and a half, and they were like, and there you go, we complete his arc. Like, they kind of just throw in a culmination of the Thor Loki, parting of the ways thing. They just have that elevator scene where they discuss their relationship, come to the conclusion that it's at an end, and go their separate ways. And that's no other part of the movie. Like, it doesn't. No part of this movie led me to believe that was coming. You know what I mean? That's a really weird thing to just throw in there. Like, now we're done.
I like that scene, and my reading of it was that Loki was saying these things, but then didn't expect Thor to believe him, didn't expect Thor to agree. This is the conversation that they have had before, not in this movie, but in other movies they've had this conversation, and Thor has always been on the other side of it, being like, no, come back into the fold. You're part of the family. You're my brother. Still good in
I will give you endless chances. And now Thor, even though he hasn't completely written off Loki as a person, because he never will, because Thor. Even though this movie turns him into a gross asshole, which I'll get into when we get to the Bruce Banner stuff. Even Thor, the Thor that we know, would never give up on Loki, but he will no longer take an active role in trying to redeem Loki. That's what I took from the conversation, and that's kind of, this is where it's the, what is it, like the girl you're always chasing but you couldn't give a shit about, or no, the girl who you couldn't give a shit about but then. You know the difference between a girl who's really into you and a girl who doesn't like, you know, and now suddenly she's more attractive. I don't know why it's so difficult for me to explain my entire teenage years, but that relationship, and suddenly Loki finds himself where he would usually have been the master manipulator and been this social engineer. Now he finds himself, it's not working. It doesn't work on him anymore. None of my tricks are going to work. And that was great. Like, the thing is, the scene in and of itself, as an isolated thing, as a capsule of their relationship, it's great. It's a great scene. I love it. It doesn't fit in this movie whatsoever. It just feels like somebody popped it in there. Like, there you go. I bet that's something you wanted, wasn't it? You didn't want all of this the preceding 45 minutes of nonsense, but I gave you what you wanted. Like, it just feels cheap. A lot of this movie just feels cheap and just tacked together with lousy humour.
A lot of people I noticed, especially Loki was the big bad early on in the Marvel things, and now everybody gets one up on him instantly. In this
he's
movie.
a joke.
Yeah,
people
like he's the butt of the jokes of the first half of this movie, and even going like later on in the movie. But he was the big bad. He was the people they were fighting against in the Avengers. He was the villain,
and he was scary.
Yeah, and now Thor, like, gonna smash his face with a hammer. He gets dropped for half an hour by Stephen Strange.
And he had this, and maybe, you know, we don't know what's going to happen in Infinity War, and perhaps not that there was like an actual plan for Loki, that he would go through all of this and redeem himself. Like, he has to redeem himself in Infinity War, or his character's entire part of the MCU was completely pointless. So there's the scene, obviously, in the trophy room at the end where he may or may not have taken the Tesseract and may or may not have him on him.
He definitely took it.
But the thing is, if he just gives the Tesseract to Thanos now, then what was the point of Loki's character at all?
I imagine he won't give it to him just like, oh, here you go. I imagine he will do it to save the Asgardian people or something like that.
I'm not sure how that would say it then, but...
Well, like if that ship, for instance, is Thanos' ship at the end, the post-credit scene, there's a big ship, and they're in their tiny giant ship anyway. So if that's Thanos' ship, and Thanos is like, I know you have an Infinity Stone, give it to me or I'll blow you out of the sky, and Loki's like, okay, here you go, now let us go.
Okay, maybe.
Because I can't just see him being like, yeah, I'm evil again, here you go, Thanos, I'm on your side. It's definitely going to be something, he'll do it for what he thinks is the right reasons.
I guess what I was trying to say was, like, when he was introduced, he was scary. Like, he was actually the whole thing of him discovering his heritage, like, you know, playing tricks for the first part, then discovering his heritage and this bitterness coming up, and obviously, like, Tom Hiddleston gave a lot to it, and it's sort of you didn't feel like much of a threat in Thor, except for how much bile there was in him, like the fact that he turned the destroyer at the end and he killed Thor anyway, just cause. But then in the Avengers, when he seems to have completely lost his mind and he shows up and just starts laying waste, you know, and then he in the scene in Germany, like, just tears a guy's eye out and he makes everybody kneel, and it's, you know, he felt like a villain, like a true villain, and like you said, he's just become a punchline now. Literally, since the punch. Yeah,
in this movie, joke after joke after joke ends with him as a punchline. He gets thrown through a portal, falls for half an hour, then he gets thrown through another portal and ends up sprawled in the grass in Norway.
And so a big part of this movie is humour, because it's directed by Taika Waititi, who is from New Zealand, which, from every movie I've ever seen by a guy from New Zealand or starring people from New Zealand, they have a very particular sense of humour. And it's... Well, I mean, it's The Flight of the Conchords. It's, you know, Hunt for the Wilder People. It's What We Do in the Shadows. This kind of very deadpan, very deadpan, very self-aware, and very not Marvel. Like, it's not clever. It's not, you know, it's not quips. It's sort of just oddball behavior. And I'm not saying that wouldn't have worked. It just doesn't work for me here in this movie. And also, a lot of the sort of... Weirdly, he rips off a lot of Marvel jokes. So, like, in the opening scene where he's telling the story to Surtur, and then he times the end of his story to him summoning Mjolnir to him, but then he gets the timing wrong. That's a direct rip off of the Iron Man 3 identical scene where Tony's trying to summon his hand to him.
That's true.
He thinks it's going to arrive, and it does, and he's like, now. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Like it's literally it's the exact same thing. And there was another. He ripped off that. He also there was the line where the drunk girl, Tessa Thompson's character, is her name Valkyrie?
I don't know.
She is a Valkyrie, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if she's ever given another name besides Scrapper 142 and Valkyrie.
Well, Valkyrie 142 like shows up to say he's mine. If you want him, you got to go through me.
Yeah.
And then she like falls off her ship, and then gets back up.
That joke did not land for me.
And then she says, "Okay, I'll go through you," which is like a direct rip-off of Rocket's line from Guardians of the Galaxy, where he's explaining the
hierarchy in the prison now.
Yeah, we go through you. Like it's weird that he took such care to watch the rest of the Marvel movies, but didn't watch Thor. You know, didn't do any research on the character for whom he was writing a movie. There's a lot to like. Okay, the soundtrack's awesome. It's very colourful, which is unusual for a Marvel movie.
Yeah,
and you know the action. I have not seen the like, you know, except like not Hela laying waste to mooks, but you know, a giant wolf versus Hulk versus lightning Thor, like Raiden Thor, you know, versus actually seeing Heimdall throw down properly for the first time. Like, there's a lot to like. It's
and
just...
the gladiator scene with Hulk is is fantastic.
It is fantastic.
All of the scenes with Hulk and Thor having like banter with each other, like they're sort of friends. And then the scenes with Loki and Thor, where they're actually just talking and like one of my favorite scenes is the story about the snake, where Thor's like he turned into a snake, and you know I love snakes. It was amazing.
And he turned back into a person and he stabbed me.
Yeah, especially because of Loki's smile. Like he's fondly remembering this childhood memory.
That's another example of I thought a good compromise between Taika Waititi's humor and Thor humor.
Yeah, exactly.
That's something I could have. That's a story I could imagine Thor telling in the Avengers or telling in Thor.
Yeah.
Just as much as I could here, and it works. Yeah, and it is a good story, and
it makes them feel a lot like brothers.
Yeah, if your brother could turn into a snake. But also, Thor doesn't behave like a hero in this movie, which I had a big problem with because.
Especially because he keeps going on about because that's what heroes do
again and again, but it's treated as a punchline because almost every time he says it, something funny happens, and he behaves kind of like a despicable asshole more than once, and it's the only time I can think of in the movie where he behaved like a true hero was when his hammer gets destroyed by Hela, and Loki immediately just
we're out of here.
We're out of here. Heimdall, bring us back, and Thor's like, no.
Yeah, because he knows what's up.
And he knows he knows they'll die. That's what so it's the only situation in the movie where Thor, without even thinking, is like, no, we're gonna die here in Norway and keep her here.
Yeah, so she can't
get back to Asgard, and that's the only that's the only time that I can think of in the entire movie where he behaved like a hero. Like you could argue, I guess, that he did at the end, but really. At the end, he was so fucking OP that it didn't mean anything to me anymore. And that was a big problem with all of the action in the movie. It didn't really mean anything because nobody was getting hurt at all. Nobody got hurt in this movie. Did anybody die?
No. Scourge died. And Thor lost an eye.
Okay, sure, he lost an eye, but I really feel like it wasn't like he lost an eye and felt bad about it, or it felt like a committee decision to me, you know, that it didn't feel like somebody wrote this story and was like, Thor needs to lose something here, there has to be a sacrifice, it's got to be a payment in blood. It just felt like, you know what would be cool if Thor has an eye patch from now on,
so he looks like Odin,
and some guy in a suit signed off on that, and it's like, okay, well, get rid of it somehow, and so he lost an eye. Whereas like the Scourge thing, that death was meaningless to me because Scourge as a character was meaningless to me because he was introduced as like just a sort of unambitious dunce, and who's this kind of, he has this like reality TV show moment where he's like, look at my stuff, and
he's got a shake weight
and a moped and shit, and it's funny, but it's very much Taika Waititi funny.
I was very taken aback by the Scourge character the first time I watched it. I was like, why does he have machine guns? This doesn't make any sense. But apparently in the comics, he has the machine guns.
I looked him up, and the thing is, it's fine. He just needs more. Like he's that's the situation where. So at the end, the reason why Scourge decides to open fire on the what are they called? They're just dead guys, right?
Yeah, they're like they're Asgardian
previous
warriors.
Asgards. Yeah. the reason he decides to open up on them is because he sees a couple of kids cowering and being held by their parents, and he's like, well, I can't let this happen. And so he basically sacrifices himself to allow the ship to take off.
Yeah.
So what we needed then were, if not a flashback for Scourge, because that would have been a bit much, the movie's already 2 hours 10 minutes long, a conversation, instead of just having witty banter, which this movie is just witty banter, the movie, have an actual conversation with Thor when he arrives back, or a conversation about Thor, maybe to those girls where he's sort of talking and they're not really listening and he's just griping, where he goes on about Thor and Loki and about how they just get everything, they're the most privileged, they just have this perfect life where he's to fight for everything he had. And Loki, of course Loki, he was just taken in as a child and raised, he got to be part of the royal family. I was a fucking orphan, who took me in? Nobody took me in, I had to take care of myself. I didn't have anybody taking care of me when I was a kid. Cut to the end of the movie, he sees a couple of kids in peril and he's like, you know what? I'll take care of them. Yeah. Something like that. It'd be better if the kids didn't even have parents, if they were just cowering there together and they were like, somebody. And it could have been, you could have still had the Taika Waititi humour where he sees a couple of kids cowering, leans into them with his 2 rifles and goes, don't worry kids, I'll take care of you. And then goes and like, you know, really on the nose. The same way as I loved Loki's entrance. It's like, Asgard, your savior has arrived. Like that was awesome, and that's pure Loki, and that was actually that was total Loki humor right there, and that would have worked for Scourge as well. Just be like, don't worry, like he could have been more or less the same character, but just that little tweak.
Yeah,
because he makes the point to Hela that all he wants is recognition. Like
all he wants is a chance to prove himself.
Which
she says is recognition. Yeah, but
unless he means prove himself to himself, he means prove himself to everybody.
Yeah, but it could be like, I've got to do the right thing here. That's proving myself.
Okay. I mean, I took prove myself as I want recognition from everybody, or I want a chance to have the same recognition that Thor and Loki get every day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm not gonna, like, this is not one of those movies where I'm like, here, I'm gonna come up with a few tweaks that would fix this. This movie is a god-awful mess. Full of, like, interesting scenes and, like, funny scenes and some, like, almost dramatic scenes and great action.
Yeah.
But, like, there's no structure here.
No, not at all.
And it's really difficult. It's kind of the worst movie to watch last, I think, because my sensibilities are, I like structure, I like stories, I like arcs and acts and, you know, progression, and this movie is just
subverts them all.
It's like trying to escape from one of those scribble mazes. Also, so they have the scene that's in Doctor Strange where Loki, or like Thor, comes to New York looking for Odin with Loki. But it'd be one thing if Thor went to New York and went to Doctor Strange and had the Doctor Strange scene and then got sent to Norway. That'd be fine. But he arrives on some street in New York with Loki, is recognised immediately by somebody who wants to get a selfie with him, and nobody recognises Loki. Loki is Osama bin Laden to a New Yorker, right? I mean, this is... The incident isn't referenced much or talked about in, like, The Defenders or Jessica Jones or any of those stories.
Just see newspaper
any of the ground level stuff. But in the movies, it's very much like the Vulture's entire backstory is based on the incident.
True.
The incident is like a big 9/11 style event in New York life,
where aliens came out of the sky. Maybe not people know that it was Loki, son of Asgard, who led them.
They do. They call him the war criminal Loki, and they make a point that you unilaterally allowed, like, the World Security Council talked to Nick Fury and were like, you allowed Thor to take the war criminal Loki back to whatever.
Yeah, so the Security Council knows, but I wouldn't be sure Joe Average on the street would
Jane
know.
Foster knows. She wasn't in New York at the time. She saw him on TV, and she hasn't talked to Thor since then. She shows up in the Dark World, sees him, punches him, and said, that was for New York.
Okay, that's true.
And Thor never came, like, Thor came back for the Avengers and then left immediately. So he didn't pop by and, like, by the way, that was my brother.
Yeah.
Like, that's something she found out on her own. So this is general knowledge. He is known to people in New York, and it's just fucking lazy storytelling.
Yeah, that's true. He should have been glamoured then to look like someone else.
Which is something he can do.
Yeah.
And it could have been funny, you know? That could have been another opportunity to have some appropriate humor.
He could have been Steve Rogers.
He could have.
Once again.
That would have been pretty cool. I guess Heimdall didn't bother to tell Thor that Odin was Loki now.
Yeah.
I mean, even if he didn't know, even if his eyes couldn't see through that, he knows Odin wouldn't fire him for treachery.
Yeah.
So,
or dereliction of duty or
whatever it was. So I feel like that's something he might have wanted to clue Thor into, especially since he can telepathically communicate with Thor with any part of the universe.
Yeah, he can do that now.
Not only that, he can just bring an astral projection of Thor to where he is at any time.
Yep.
Jesus, come on.
My favourite thing about that scene is thinking that all of the people with Heimdall just see him talking to himself.
Oh yeah,
like while they're all hiding, he's like,
but I would say that's
I
probably.
see you, but you're very far away.
I would say that's probably par for the course for people in Heimdall. Like that's probably why he spends so much time in the Bifrost room, is because he's mostly just talking to people who aren't there.
Yeah, a lot of his lines, he doesn't sound like Heimdall at all.
He doesn't. Nobody sounds like what they're supposed to sound like.
There are a few lines where it's like, yes, that's how Heimdall would say this, and then when he first shows up, it's like, no, that doesn't sound like Heimdall at all. What are you doing?
Very saddening.
Yeah.
Did you notice how Loki and Hela look more like brother and sister than Thor and Hela?
Okay, yeah, I see that.
Even though Loki's not part of the family.
Yeah, Loki's the adapted one. What I noticed about Hela is that she doesn't look Asgardian. Her outfit is not Asgardian-esque in any way. The only slight tie-in that brought her into Asgardian is that she has those crazy horns, and in the mural on the roof, the hidden mural on the roof of Asgard, you see Odin with the same type of horns right in the center. But other than that, her outfit didn't look Asgardian to me.
My take is that, and I'm giving the movie a little bit more credit than it deserves here, but my take was that that's how they used to dress. So back when they were a conquering nation, they did dress all nice and magnificent in gold.
Yeah.
They dressed like conquerors. They showed up and they were scary, and they dressed like stormtroopers.
Yeah, that's fair. And the only similarity I saw to anything Asgardian would be sort of the Under Armour of the Valkyries. Their Under Armour, their skin tight armour looked like Hela's, but white instead of black, sort of. But other than that, she doesn't look like anything Asgardian.
Well, a lot of the costume design, set design, and design in this movie had nothing to do with any of the previous design choices. It was like in the second movie where he said the weapons had that little whooshing.
Yeah, they all glowed, and they didn't glow in this one.
Yeah, or in the first one. It's just there's just no coherency between these different iterations.
Yeah.
But yeah, they go to New York and they get sent to Norway by
cameo Stephen Strange.
Dr. Stephen Strange, who's this is a lot more. Everything about this, everything from the pure sitar music to no Star Trek theme to his gloves, which he didn't wear in the movie, to
didn't he wear gloves?
Bright yellow gloves? I don't remember that. Maybe he did. I don't remember them.
Not all the time, anyway. Definitely not all the time.
To just his sort of demeanor and the I feel like they shot a better Doctor Strange scene than any of the scenes in Doctor Strange. It felt more appropriate and opposite for what kind of when I hear the pitch for what Doctor Strange is meant to be. That this scene felt more like it than most of anything I saw in Doctor Strange itself. Mostly the music, like in Thor Ragnarok. It's like the permissions just keep getting. Each movie they just get a little bit more. So like in Thor Ragnarok, somebody said, "Okay, you can have your own music. You can do whatever you want with the music."
Yeah. Well, I guess because Guardians has been such a big hit with their own music.
Yeah. But it's just a shame for me because that's kind of, if only all of the music in Doctor Strange had been kind of weird Eastern instruments like sitar and stuff like that. That would have been. I feel like that would have added a lot to the movie. Like it sort of controls how you feel about what you're seeing to a large extent, and that's sort of. I felt like I was watching a Star Trek movie, but Khan was the good guy. I don't know. Why would you go to Norway and not talk about Vikings or Norse mythology or their place in Midgard or any of the fact is what's going to happen is Hela's going to show up. Hela's the goddess of death in Norse mythology, and she is going to bring ruin to Asgard. And instead of getting Sir Anthony Hopkins, one of the greatest living actors around right now, to kind of give us a sort of David Attenborough-esque treatise on Norse mythology and try and work instead it's just a really boring scene. It doesn't give him anything interesting to do or give him lines that would be interesting to say. It's just like Sir Exposition, you know?
Yeah.
Whereas if he could have explained the problem to Thor via mythology, you know, because that's something they kind of touched on in the first movie as a way to, for anybody who didn't
know about
Norse mythology, is like, here's this book, and here's all these things, and that's where we get the names for all this stuff. And I'm not saying that I want Thor to be closer to Norse mythology, but I just feel like that was a wasted opportunity. Nobody told you had to be in Norway. It could have been in New York. It could have been at the Sanctum. Like, he could have broken the spell, or Doctor Strange could have broken the spell and been like, I don't like people under spells that aren't my spells, and break that spell. But then he would have opted to, I can send you back, so I don't want to go back. And he's like, okay, well, you can stay at the Sanctum because you're a really powerful magic user, so I'd rather you were here, you know? That could have been where you kept him, but you didn't. You decided you wanted to go to Norway. And that's, to me, the obvious reason to go to Norway is to remind Thor and Loki of their place in the larger story here. And the context for that is the stories that have formed around them, which is the mythology of the Norse gods, which is how we derove this, like, that's where the story of Thor is derived from. Like, even the comic book Thor, it's derived from those mythologies. And the way that these stories, and also because, remember, the whole theme of the fucking thing is covering up history, is literally plastering over history with a different version of events. And this could have been his opportunity. Like, obviously he apparently, even though he was seconds away from death, decided this isn't the time to tell them that I lied about the history of Asgard. He could have, in his own way, like, maybe he literally felt so much shame for the hundreds and hundreds of years of slaughter that even on his deathbed he wasn't willing to just come out and tell them, but he could have told them a sort of another dressed up Odin story of the mythology of Hela and the you know, everything that was. And this is what's coming, boys, you know? I just, like, I'm not sure. I would need to sit down and actually make a video essay to get across what I'm trying to say here. But it's the important thing for this movie is that this scene is boring and Anthony Hopkins is wasted. And that's, Anthony Hopkins was amazing in Thor. Anthony Hopkins made Thor, like, he turned the original Thor movie from what would have been a kind of silly and dated feeling by the numbers hero's journey to compelling kind of Shakespearean, not epic, but something close, like on its way, you know? He elevated everything. In the second movie, he was Mr. Sass. He's just sassing everybody, just making jokes. You know, I don't know why they did that. It was okay, but it did kind of undermine his character.
Strange.
And then in this one, he's just he sits on a rock and delivers exposition, and then in the final moments of the movie, he tells Thor what he needs to hear to be Thor again. And that's it. That's his role. I didn't feel so much like, I didn't find the scene boring like you found it boring. I didn't feel like he was just sitting on a rock delivering exposition. It felt kind of like, to me it felt like the old Jedi Master, you know, saying sayings that your young Padawans don't understand but have meaning, like, and what? Then you fade away into what was the saying?
I can't remember the exact saying somebody was saying.
So it didn't have that much meaning then, Steve.
But that's the impression I got of the scene.
That's not the impression I got. I felt like he delivered a bunch of information and then he died. And I honestly, I felt like Anthony Hopkins didn't even like it. Like, I felt like I could read on his face he was doing his best to act, but I felt like it kind of came through that he was like, what is this? Why did I join a franchise? I don't know if he's ever been in a franchise before. Can't think of one that's like a series of movies, except maybe for Hannibal. But yeah, what have I done? that's when I was looking at him and listening to him, all I could hear was his voice going, what have I done? Also, okay, this is important because we talked about this before and I feel like we still don't have a definitive answer for it. But where the fuck do the magic powers come from?
They're magic.
Don't give me that bullshit, Steve.
They're
why
tools
are
left
there
over from creation.
Why are there normal Asgardians? What is it? Why do some Asgardians have powers and some don't?
The royal Asgardians.
Why the royal
power
Asgardians
from Asgard?
But that's okay. So only the monarchy has access to the power of Asgard.
Yeah.
Why?
Presumably because that's how Odin was like, I'm gonna, I want to be powerful. Now I'm powerful. Now I can take over the 9 realms.
So Heimdall is part of the royal family?
I don't know. Heimdall is something else because he can see everything and no one else can do that.
Okay. your explanation for Loki's powers were that he learned them.
For magic, yes.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean for magic? Yes, but that's magic. They're all magical powers. One guy can control lightning. Another guy can apparently like force people to relive memories and also create holograms. And then one guy can create laser beams out of his staff. Maybe it's the staff that's doing that. But also he seems to be able to see through ravens anywhere in the world or something like that. Like, come on! The point I'm trying to make is there's a scene where Scourge is being forced to prove that he's going to be the executioner by she picks a random woman, a random peasant out of the crowd and is like, execute that woman. And I'm just looking around going, so nobody else has any power here, including all of the soldiers she killed had no powers.
Well, I mean, they're Asgardians, so they're stronger than we are and more hardy.
But where do the powers come from? Why does Thor have the power to control lightning?
Because he's the god of thunder.
But that doesn't. But that so then they're not. It's not a monarchy. They're gods. That's different. That's not a royal family. Though that means they're actual gods. Small g probably, but gods. I feel like that's a distinction that's important to make, because this movie is all about like the main theme of this movie is like those unfit to rule.
Yeah.
So the Grandmaster, Odin, Hela, Thor to an extent, Loki. Obviously, like it's that's what the movie seems to be about. Is we have this monarchy and it's not working. Like that's kind of Tessa Thompson's whole arc. Is that
everybody hates the throne.
Yeah, everybody hates the throne. Like
even Thor hates the throne.
Yeah, like I once believed in it exactly, and I'm going to get to that. I once believed in the throne. I fought for the throne. All of my friends died for the throne. You know what? The throne can go fuck itself.
Yeah.
And Thor agrees with her. Now, to be fair, during that time where he was agreeing with her, he was literally lying to everybody to get them to do what he wanted them to do because he's just being a despicable asshole.
That's true.
But he agrees with her, and I thought that was the arc, like that was the thematic arc of the movie, was coming to the realization that just ruling in general is wrong. Like Hela wants to rule over Asgard, and so Thor spites her with that. It's like, fine, you can have Asgard. I'm taking all the people, and here's what rulers have to deal with. Sartor, because that's something I went and took care of earlier, and you know what? Here, you take care of him now. So that's, he was spiting her with the idea that, so you want to rule Asgard? Here's what it means to rule Asgard.
Yeah.
Whereas he was taking the actual responsibility of Asgard, which is protect the people. And I thought, in the final thing that happens is he sits in a fucking chair, which I assume there wasn't a throne. But maybe it's the Grandmaster's throne, but like it's weird that this cargo ship happens to have a throne that faces out into space. Also, that it has its back to the people. But then I guess
I imagine it can move.
Well,
the spaceship.
What I imagined was that it's a captain's chair, right?
Yeah, that's what I thought as well.
I thought the obvious thing here was Heimdall goes, "So what next, my king?" For him to turn around and go, "Call me captain." Just a small thing, not like have a big conversation about the death of monarchy. Just turn and say, "No, call me captain." And then Heimdall, like Idris Elba being one of the best actors out there, could go, "I completely understand everything that happened there." In a look, like yes. So the monarchy is dead, right? And that would have been the moment where the monarchy ended, and he became captain. And so captain is this sort of transferable mantle, right? The most like qualified individual can be the captain of Asgard, and that's sort of what we're going to have from now on, because Thor realizes I'm not going to be able to kind of take care of everybody at all times. Yeah. I have Infinity Wars to fight and such things.
Or even if he just said, I'm not a king. Something like that.
Well, I wanted him to be captain, both because he's now the captain of a starship, and because that would set up a great joke when he sees Cap again. And then an even better joke when Captain Marvel gets introduced. And they're all like, well, we got that many captains. But that's also why I think Steve Rogers is going to die.
Yeah.
Because between Infinity War and Infinity War Part 2, another captain's going to show up.
No, that's true.
That might be a little obvious, but anyway, we'll do a predictions video. I wish that Loki had fallen at the end of Thor. Do you remember Loki at the end of Thor? He's hanging off the Bifrost and he falls.
Let go.
Why didn't he fall to Sakaar? And then when he went, but then he.
I've been here before.
There's a bunch of things, right? One, I'm pretty sure that was Thanos. There's a bunch of heads on the outside of the Grandmaster's skyscraper.
Yeah, all the previous champions.
And I checked, and one of them, it could be Hulk and it could be Thanos. Hulk is under construction.
Yeah, Hulk is under
exactly.
construction.
So there's two people in the world who have that chin, and it's Hulk and Thanos, and Hulk is still under construction. So as far as I'm concerned, Thanos, probably thousands of years ago, was one of the gladiators who fought here, and was like a big enough...
Grandmaster Goldblum has been there for thousands of years.
Yeah. It could be millions. No, in your time it could be millions, or it could be... And then he just makes faces. But anyway, that like thousands of years ago, maybe Thanos, before he was the destroyer of worlds, was a gladiator, and was one of the ones who was vicious enough and memorable enough that he got his giant head made on the side of the building.
Yeah, was one of the champions.
And so, what am I trying to say? Right, and so at the end of Thor, Loki falls into Sakaar, and time meets Thanos, right? Because time is crazy when you're falling into Sakaar, and all these portals take you to different times. Meets Thanos, or maybe it is already after Thanos' time, but somehow gets onto the idea that
Thanos is someone
he falls to Sakaar. Yeah, he falls to Sakaar, and all he wants is to take over Asgard, and so he needs a powerful ally. And someone's like, who's a powerful ally? Thanos. And I hear he's just thrown Infinity Stones away. And so that's how he linked up with Thanos. And so when he then ends up in Sakaar again, he's already got the hookup. Yeah. So it's instead of it being, I fell here a few weeks ago and I'm already part of the inner circle. No, I've been here before. I know
it would have been perfect.
Yeah, that's one of those things where, you know what you could have done? Watched the first Thor movie. Just watch it. And then use that to draw ideas for your future movies. Because that's what they're for. It's fucking continuity. Sorry. This movie, like, I don't want to say it had a lot of promise, but I can see a lot of ways that I could have improved it. Here's a list. Thor could have been like a T'Challa type figure. Like this movie, the trilogy of Thor movies, with a little bit of tweaking, could have been Thor slowly coming to understand that the Odin he grew up knowing isn't Odin. Yeah. Isn't Odin. Like they did a sort of effective thing in it here, except he didn't have a meaningful conversation with Odin in this movie. Yeah. And every bit of information he heard about the other Odin came from his sister, who's an unreliable narrator at best, and a few murals, which... Okay, it looks like they're from under... Like, the thing is, it's not given enough. There's not enough. It's not meaty enough. And also, I feel like it would have been better if it had been an established thing, where lies are part of being an Asgardian. Where, like you said, at the end of the first one, the Bifrost is destroyed, and at the start of the second one, all the realms have gone into revolution. And so you're like... So... As soon as they discovered that the Asgardians no longer had the power to teleport here at will and also hold us hostage with this giant planet-destroying laser, as soon as that happened, everybody went into open revolt.
Yeah,
and
they even mentioned it here in this one. At the play scene, Thor goes to Odin, to Loki, and is like, you've let the 9 realms, like, our enemies are planning revolt, and, they're attacking each other. You can't just let them, and Loki's like, I've had board meetings and security council meetings and whatnot. So again, as soon as Asgard isn't doing its job as the protectorate / overlord of the 9 realms, they revolt.
Exactly, and so that's the second movie. Sort of, instead of it just being Thor shows up and has a really funny fight with a rock monster, that rock monster could have been a setup for what became Korg. Like, not that would have been the same person, but that planet of rock people just wants freedom, and in fact it's really, and it's an instinctual thing, because they're rock monsters. They are nature. It's abhorrent to something that literally is made out of nature to be ruled by anybody. They're rock monsters. It's like trying to rule a horse. That's instead of it being a kind of throwaway thing where he shows up at what I guess was the Asian Warrior 3's home or whatever, and everybody stopped warring. It could have been another little nugget of information. Like, the rest of the movie could have been more or less what it was, but just a little nugget of things aren't what they seem. Like, things aren't how they're presented. And Thor could have been just as unreliable a narrator. Like, Thor could have been tricking himself, you know? Like, he doesn't want to believe that we're these...
No, we're doing this for their good.
Yeah, because he was raised to believe that, you know? And instead of it just... In the story where he's telling the two sons... When they're little kids, in the first movie, there's like a scene where he's telling them a story or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And Thor's like, I'm going to be a warrior, and they're being kids anyway. And that could have been another, like, an indoctrination. Like, this is what it means to be an Asgardian.
Yeah.
And so just plant these little seeds here and there, and then have a meaningful conversation in Norway with their dad about mythology and the importance of mythology and how mythology helps to shape culture, and how sometimes those mythologies are lies. Sorry, I'm dead now. Here's Hela. She'll tell you the truth. And Hela tells them the truth. They don't believe it. They try to fight her. She destroys the hammer. She shows up in Asgard. She reveals the truth. Thor comes back at the end, sees it with his own eyes for the very first time, decides to destroy the monarchy and actually, reimagine what it means to be Asgardian, because now they're a nomadic species.
Yeah.
And in that final moment says, no, not king, captain. And it's just a title, and anybody can have the title, and it'll shift from people to people, and you don't need to be part of the royal family, because there is no royal family. We are going to be self-governed from now on. And that could have been, that would have been a great trilogy of movies right there. Very different from Captain America, very different from Iron Man. It's its own thing. It's got its own theme of the dissolution of monarchy, and also Thor as a character could still go through a lot of wacky hijinks, but the core of this movie is him going to a planet where there is this Grand Master King who is basically subjugating everyone, but presenting the image of I'm benevolent, I'm taking care of everyone, everybody.
I don't like the slave word.
You're just prisoners with jobs, and everybody worships me, and everybo's happy, and I'm taking care of everyone. But really, he's subjugating everybody. And Thor finally sees what it's like from the other side. He goes through the looking glass and comes through the end of this movie changed. But that's not what happens. Instead, we just get a neon blitzkrieg
a neon synthwave blitzkrieg
of like cool shit. It's sort of like if Zack Snyder didn't have clinical depression. This is if he just
that's a great description.
If he just had, I'm sorry. I apologize for that because his daughter died recently.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to take that back. But what I'm saying is, if he just had that sensibility of, because it's cool.
Yeah.
I like things because they're cool, because it's going to look cool, because it's going to be a great visual, and that's this whole movie.
Yeah.
Except without the moody stuff, without the kind of really heavy-handed thematic imagery. It's just cool things, and that's fine. But you're at the end of what's supposed to be a trilogy, and at the end of Captain America's trilogy, Captain America basically betrays the Avengers and loses his shield and kind of loses a bit of his righteousness. He sacrifices a bit of what made him Captain America, which was the one thing, the one grain that he held on to through this entire thing is, I know what's right. But finally he's forced to compromise, and that's the end of his trilogy. Tony, even though even though we both have a lot of problems with Tony's characterization in Iron Man 3, in the end of the Iron Man trilogy, he is forced to confront the fact that he is a tremendously broken individual and has ongoing trauma. It's affecting his daily life, and although he goes back on it in that movie, he does make some take some steps towards changing it, and so that's and I don't like the way people keep writing off Thor. Like, Thor is just this silly other character. Like, he's this person to be talked about with a wink. It's not, don't take him too seriously. He's not he's just the comic relief part of the Avengers. Every fucking Avengers comic relief. Like, everybody is played for jokes at some point. And the Thor started off really strong. I mean, it was directed by Kenneth Branagh. Odin's played by Anthony Hopkins, guys. Like, it started.
And it felt like a Shakespearean play in a movie, a Marvel Shakespearean play. Yeah,
and I'm not saying that I wanted it to stay with that sensibility and stay in that tone. I understand that it was a bit dated and it did need to be livened up. It did need to be freshened a bit. But this is what's the word? When you don't show respect to what came before.
Dismissive? No. Insensitive?
Not insensitive. I guess dismissive. Dismissive makes sense. It's like they took Thor and said, you know what, this guy's a joke, so let's make it a joke on purpose. And I disagree. I don't think any of the MCU is a joke. A lot of it can be played for laughs, but it's only when somebody takes over and decides they don't give a fuck about this character that they start to really seem like a joke. So take Ant-Man for instance in Civil War. Whoever wrote Ant-Man and directed Ant-Man took Ant-Man seriously, and he had a serious arc, and he genuinely he was a
he had
he was a
human
father
motivations.
He was a father who wanted to get back to his daughter. Whoever wrote Civil War said, "Fuck that, I'm going to put him in prison," and he's not even going to mention his daughter. And when given the option to become a criminal or go back to his daughter, he's going to become a criminal, even though that goes against everything he believed in. And that's where we're. I thought someone was in charge of this. You know, like every time this happens in these Marvel movies,
Kevin
Feige. Like
Feige.
I thought there was someone whose job it was to kind of just proofread this shit and go, no, hang on, that's not consistent. You know, and it's
like the story group for Star Wars.
And that's why Marvel is becoming so fucking samey and homogenized, and nothing means anything. And it's really like that's why I had to preface this with how tired I am of these movies, and how sometimes it feels like the movies themselves aren't taking themselves seriously. So why should I? Like I paid for this. I'm sitting down in the theater and there's people everywhere, and we're all here to watch your movie, your creative vision. So like you think you're a joke? I don't. What are you doing? You know, it's. I'm a lot more animated than I expected, because I remember getting to the end of the Doctor Strange podcast.
I'm being disheartened.
I was so tired,
downtrodden.
Just, at least this. I guess the fact that I have passion is a good sign.
Nothing makes you more animated than a movie that you don't like / do like. Like.
So this is a Thor movie, so I guess it's unfair to go on about Hulk, but let's go on about Hulk a bit.
Yeah, I wanted to actually, because there's some really, really good Hulk stuff in here. Really, really good. Especially that scene on the Quinjet, where he sees Black Widow, and he starts turning back into Banner, and he's like, no, Banner, no! Not like this, I think is what he says. And he turns back into Bruce Banner. He doesn't want to be Banner. Banner doesn't want to be Hulk. They don't want to be each other.
Yeah.
It's perfect.
It is perfect.
And that was, like, it was a scary, like, body horror-esque scene.
Yeah, just the look on his face as there's the kind of first moment where his skin sort of flashes back to skin colour.
Yeah.
And there's the look on the Hulk's face as Banner's face sort of comes out of it a little bit, and it's pure terror, you know, and then he cowers and he turns that way.
Punching himself in the face to try and keep himself whole.
Yeah. And it's really affecting. Like, it's really affecting, and it was probably because that's Hulk right there. Is the moment between, like, the moment at the end of the Avengers where he's like, I'm always angry, turns into the Hulk, and then the moment here where he fights his way back to being Banner. That's basically, if you knew nothing else about the Hulk, that's the moment that will tell you everything you need to know about the Hulk. This is a curse that Banner lives with and sometimes uses to do good, and this is, if you want to think of the Hulk as a real character, this is like the fear that Hulk lives in, is that Banner will take over.
It's the fear that they both have.
Force him back down. No, I know, but like in this incarnation of Bruce Banner, I would say that he doesn't live in fear of it anymore. It's something he's accepted.
Well, he didn't until now.
And so and that's the thing. So they make a point in this movie. Like I guess maybe they didn't make a point. They were just using words.
No, it's a point.
No, but so there's an earlier scene in the fight where Hulk, like, he tries to just talk to him, and then he realizes he's not hearing me right now.
Yeah.
And then they fight a little bit, and then the Hulk gets a good hit on him, and the Thor gets a good hit on him, and while Hulk is kind of getting his senses back, Thor tries the lullaby, and he's coming at him, and he's like, sun's getting real low, and it's and you know he's twitching a bit, and he's like, it looks like it's working.
He puts his hand out. Yeah.
And he says, I won't hurt you anymore. Nobody's going to hurt you anymore. And as he's saying that, he's stroking his hand. And
or he goes to stroke his hand, but Hulk grabs him.
And it's a reminder to how Bruce described being the Hulk to everybody. Because everybody... So I think he's talking to Tony, and Tony's like, you know how much I would love to just have armor in my skin? Like, you know, to just be impenetrable? It's like, it's not like that. It's not armor. It's not armor.
I'm an open nerve.
It's an exposed nerve. It's pain. Being the Hulk is pain. You feel pain all the time. And that's... So it reminds you of that. Then you have this scene where Hulk doesn't want Thor to leave because even though he doesn't want to be Banner, he does miss being an Avenger.
Yeah.
And then Banner, upon seeing Natasha, forces his way back, like, you know, pushes the Hulk back down, and there's terror. Both of them are terrified, and then he comes back, and almost as soon as he comes back, forget all of that. Comedy. We're back to comedy now. Everybody make jokes as quickly as possible. Let's have as many jokes as we can.
Well, there's lots of jokes going on around Banner, but Banner doesn't make any, really. He's sort of out of it for a lot of it.
I don't know.
And he does have that scene with Thor where he's like, if I turn into the Hulk again, I'm gone. And Thor makes a horrible joke about it, and is a horrible person.
Yeah, but he's also he's like, you know, I need a disguise. I'll pretend to be Tony, and then he's making like it's not that it's a joke, but it's played for comedy that like Tony wears real tight pants, and I'm not saying that like he's making jokes, and most of this movie isn't people making jokes. It's just people alternately being oddballs or like despicable, and play for comedy. So like everything the Grandmaster does is kind of disgusting, and he's a cruel and terrible person. But Jeff Goldblum's playing him, so it's hilarious. And everything the Hulk does is just disgusting. Like he's
just like a bratty kid almost.
Yeah, he's like he's got Banner back, and he's explaining to him that he goes through the story of the film so far, which sounds absolutely bonkers. And he's like, and he's kind of looking at him. So you got to come help me fight my sister. I don't want to fight your sister. That sounds like family stuff. I don't want to get involved in that. And he's like, you just want me for the Hulk. He's like, no, I don't. I much prefer you. The Hulk is all,
which is the same thing you just said to the Hulk.
But he does. He does, and it's like, and Banner catches him.
Yeah, Banner knows that.
Yeah, Banner catches him in the lie, and then Banner, but then it's played for comedy. You know what I mean? Then he's like, but I'm better than
Banner's
Hulk.
Useful.
Banner's useful. I have 7 PhD. And it's like, Banner's useful. Is he though? And the Hulk, like, that's not the Hulk to me. You know?
I mean, that's not Thor.
The Hulk, yeah, Jesus Christ. There's a lot of people with 4-letter names. That's not Thor to me. He's not. Thor's a hero.
Yeah,
Thor's a classic hero. That's the whole point of the first Thor movie, is he learns to be a hero and take care of people.
Yeah, that scene, like it's in there just because it's comedic. I think it's so out of character for Thor, and it is like really not a great thing to do.
And it comes on the tail. Like, it'd be one thing if it was just part of a movie, which it is. It'd be one thing if it was just part of a sort of comedy, you know, like a Spider-Man Homecoming type, everything's just comedy here.
Yeah.
But this is coming directly after
like a really emotional scene.
Yeah, like, I won't hurt you anymore. So establishing that Thor understands that Hulk is in pain at all times, and that the lullaby is the only thing that can bring him back. And then watching the body horror transformation back to Bruce Banner, and having it in no uncertain terms from Bruce Banner's lips. I'm terrified. If I turn back into the Hulk, I will never come back. Bruce Banner will be gone forever. He's like, yeah, but is Bruce Banner that useful? Because I need the Hulk to fight a battle against my sister.
Yeah.
That's not Thor. You know? That's what are you doing? What are you doing? Like,
it is bad. It is really bad. The important thing to note here is that he does turn back into the Hulk at the end, and stays as Hulk. It's not Bruce Banner standing on the bridge with everybody else. It's the Hulk.
Yeah.
So what Banner said was going to happen, happened.
Yeah.
He's gone.
He is gone. How do you feel about that?
I imagine we'll get Ruffalo back at some point.
I didn't ask about your imagination. How did you feel about that scene?
About the jumping out of the plane scene?
How did it make you feel?
It didn't have the impact that it should have had, because it was played for comedy.
It was tantamount to death.
Yeah.
Everything about the movie so far established for me that in Bruce Banner's eyes, if he turns back into the Hulk, he's committing suicide. He's ending his life.
Yeah,
Bruce Banner's
the
life.
Hulk will be the only one left.
And so he jumps out of a plane, and it's a punchline. It's not even apotheosis. It's not even like he gets to actualize and he lands as the Hulk, and I'm the Hulk now and I accept that. It's literally a punchline. He jumps out, smashes into the thing, and it's not even like he smashes into the thing and then pops up as the Hulk. Smashes into the thing, zooms in on his face. He's dead. He's all twisted. And
the dog nudges him.
The dog, and just lets him go. And then the dog starts charging, and then he's the Hulk, and he grabs him again. But like, it's played not only as a joke, but as a fucking Taika Waititi awkward, goes on a bit too long joke.
Yeah.
And what are you doing? What are you doing? I understand that you have this comedic sensibility, but you also have a responsibility to these characters, to Thor and Hulk.
Yeah.
And you've turned Thor into a despicable asshole, and you've completely undercut the gravitas of Bruce Banner's decision to now opt into being the Hulk for the rest of his life. Now I know he's going to show up in Infinity War, he's going to see Natasha Romanoff, and he's going to turn back into Banner, obviously. Yeah. But we all know these things are going to happen. We all know that in the next movie these things are going to happen. But still, this is a movie, and in this story, this is what matters. So yeah. I'm perfectly happy to take this movie as itself, as what it is. It's just a story with a beginning, middle, and an end. But even in this movie, in the beginning, middle, and end of this story, you've given me the information that to be Hulk is a terrifying and painful experience, that he doesn't want to do it anymore, that he's terrified that if he ever goes back, he'll be stuck there forever.
Yeah.
And then you've just made him opting to go back to that a joke.
Yeah, and it's not like...
Not a hero moment, a joke.
Yeah, it's not like the movie had no emotional, powerful, dramatic scenes previous to this. It has. And then it just uses this could have been that dramatic scene, but it's just used as a joke instead. Especially
since Hulk never got his own movie,
Yeah.
He got the Incredible Hulk with Edward Norton, but let's just say he never got his own movie.
Yeah. And the jumping out of the plane could be considered a callback to that, because in that
he jumps out.
Edward Norton hits the ground before he turns into the Hulk, and on this he hits the Bifrost. But it's not really.
And if it was a callback, then it should have been different. If it was a callback to the Edward Norton thing, when he jumps out that helicopter, he's not ready.
Yeah.
He's not fully accepted. He has control because they had that whole thing where he's learned how to control.
Well, that's at the very end.
Okay, right. But even more reason, he at the end of the Avengers says, "I'm always angry," and turns into the Hulk. Apropos of nothing, just turns into the Hulk. But somehow he wasn't able to turn into the Hulk before he hit the Bifrost.
Yeah.
So that means that you just played that as a joke. I know Mark Ruffalo can turn into the Hulk at will, because that's established in canon in the MCU. So literally you just opted to take what should have been a heroic moment. And also, it's not given enough time. He stands up out of the cockpit.
Yeah, there's a 3-second shot of his face.
Yeah.
Where he's like, okay, I've got to do this. And he stands up and jumps out.
Well, he stands up and he goes, "Don't worry, I'll take care of this. You wanted to see who I am?" Jumps out of the plane. And you need more than that, because this is the last time Bruce Banner's ever going to speak.
Yep.
So, especially, you also kind of set up a little bit of a friendship between him and Valkyrie lady. Her and Hulk had a relationship, and that's something that you could have, sacrificed a bit of the other comedy scenes to give a little bit more to when they sort of meet each other again as Bruce and her, so that since she's the only one available for him to talk to, he could deliver his final words to her, and I know it's not his final words, and he's going to be Bruce Banner again, and Mark Ruffalo will just continue to play this character until he can probably keep playing for a lot longer, because he doesn't need to keep eating chicken and working out every day. But in this story, you just sacrificed what could have been a good dramatic moment for comedy, and I'm sick of it. I'm sick of that Marvel conceit of comedy over drama. I don't know what focus group it was that gave them that metric, but they're wrong. Whoever they were, they're wrong. You need more focus groups, or different focus groups.
Well, they're right.
Or just abandon focus groups and actually go back to writers and creative visionaries and stop writing these things by committee.
They're not wrong if all they want to do is make okay movies that make them $1 million billion dollars. Just print money. But they are wrong if you want
to make a movie I like.
Yes.
Which should be their priority.
Or movies with more depth and more gravitas.
Yeah. I guess the Bifrost could have destroyed Thanos.
Maybe.
I mean, they destroyed it because, Asgard's destroyed. But before Asgard is destroyed, Thor blows up the bridge again. And it just occurred to me in that moment, that's weird. They're basically taking the Asgardians out of the picture.
Yeah.
Because that probably would have been in Infinity War, and all this shit's going down, and you've kept reminding us that Asgard's job is to police all of the realms.
Yeah.
That probably would have been a kind of a running thing of like where's the Asgardians?
Yeah, and they handily killed the entire Asgardian army.
Yeah,
and now they only have Asgardian civilians.
now the only Asgardians they have left are those civilians plus all the ones with magic.
Yeah, Thor and Loki.
Yeah. And Heimdall can
Heimdall,
see everything all the way across the universe. In fact, they established that's exactly what he can do. He can see all the way to the other end of the universe.
Yeah,
somebody says in this movie, so now we know that for sure.
Scrooge says it. Yeah.
Since when does Thor do science jargon?
Yeah, it was a bit odd. It was a bit standoutish in that scene. That's the planning scene. I liked everything about this like scene where they're like they form the Revengers and they go about their plan, except for this techno babble that Thor spits out. I mean, sort of like it's okay because technology and magic are one and the same, but he shouldn't have called it something.
A collapsing
Norse.
neutron star in a Rosen bridge.
Einstein-Rosen bridge.
Yeah, it's just not how he talks. Like it's lazy.
Well, he didn't say that.
Did he not?
No, Banner said that.
But he said some kind of science stuff.
Yeah, he said something about a ship with this sciencey piece of equipment.
Okay.
It should have been something. He should have said it in a Norse way because in Thor 2, they have their fancy technology, and it's called something like Norse-y, and then Jane Foster's like, oh, it's like this thing.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. So is it? Yeah.
They're like it's like a soul viewer or something.
Oh, so it's like an MRI machine.
Yeah, it's like an MRI.
Also, could we see a bit of that revolution? No. Okay. Like
you don't need to see that. You just need to know that it happened.
I would have liked to seen it. Like, and you have this post-credit scene where the Grandmaster finds himself in the junk pile, crawling out of
like an escape pod or a ship or something. Maybe they
no
did
context.
film a bit of it.
I don't know. I would have liked to see Korg fighting his way out.
Yeah.
Instead of just showing up as needed. For like the last act is
That's
Korg shows up as needed. Like Korg just appears. It's like, we're going to get on this ship. And
you want to go on this spaceship? Yeah, Korg, it's Deus Ex Korg a lot in this movie.
Also, so this is also, is Loki joining the team? Or is this another trick? Because the movie ends with Loki. There's like a running joke where Loki keeps appearing as an astral projection and Thor throws things at him.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the movie, he shows up in Thor's room and Thor throws something at him and he catches it. And the implication, although they don't really say anything, is that Loki's in it now. Loki's joined the cause.
Yeah.
But we also know that Loki stole the Tesseract.
Yeah.
Probably.
Definitely.
Okay.
Otherwise it exploded and is in the rubble.
It can't be destroyed.
Otherwise it's in the rubble of Asgard.
Otherwise it's in space where it probably started, given it's the space stone.
Yeah.
But
no, he definitely stole it.
So I don't know.
I think the implication is that yes, he's trying to change to come because everything else has changed now. There's no Asgard for him to rule over. He got that talking to by Thor when he was like being electrocuted. He was like, the world's trying to change. Life is about change, but you just want to be the god of mischief. But you could be so much more. And then he does the heroic thing at the end to go blow up Asgard by putting the crown in the eternal fire. So I think it is like him trying to show Thor that he's changed a bit, but I don't know. You can never trust Loki.
Yeah.
Which is a problem because we've had so many. Oh, I'm on your side. Now I've betrayed you. Now I'm on your side. Now I've betrayed you. We as an audience can't even tell for this scene if he's there or not.
How long do Asgardians live?
At least 500 million years, or 500,000 years.
That's how long Odin lives.
Yeah. Asgardians somewhere around like 5,000, I guess. Like general Asgardians.
This is relevant to the plot of this movie.
Yeah.
Because this movie is about revisionist history.
Yeah.
And revisionist history only works if people die regularly.
Yeah.
And the new people coming up are told different stories.
Yeah.
But there are a lot of people who are still. If there are a lot of people who were alive back then, they would know. And I get the sense that Heimdall's been around pretty much as long as Odin.
Yeah.
And I guess all of the royal family have that longevity.
Extreme longevity, yeah. As well as the Valkyries.
At least she's been around exactly. So.
No, because she's been on Sakaar.
Oh, for crying out loud!
Which has wibbly wobbly, timey wimey, hand wavy things to explain why
But this
she's
is
still
why
alive.
this is why I was trying to establish earlier who has this magic. So in my mind, any of those magic users live for millions of years, whatever. But the regular, in order for the revisionist history storyline to make sense, the regular Asgardian people can only live like normal lives, normal people lives. Because I mean, if they live 5,000 years, I mean, I don't know when they used to be conquerors, but that's not long enough that they would have forgotten that.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, yeah, but Thor does say that Odin killed Surtur 500,000 years ago,
Yeah.
which is a long time.
But then also, in that, he's being very flippant, and maybe that's hyperbole, you know?
But even if it is hyperbole, it's like a huge number. And so if the regular Asgardian lives 5,000 years, then there could be some revisionist history in place. And if the throne lives even like 10,000 or 100,000 years instead of 500,000,
Okay.
it's still like 20 generations or something.
Oh, I had another thing to say about the fact that they ripped off the Iron Man 3 joke
Yeah.
about Thor's hammer, summoning Thor's hammer.
Yeah.
It occurred to me, and it never occurred to me before, but Thor's hammer is probably where Tony got the idea for the prodigal son. Armor that he can summon to him. Right?
That's perfect.
Because that comes right after the Avengers, where he met Thor,
Yeah.
and he saw what Thor can do, which is throw and bring back his hammer.
Wouldn't it be great if I could summon armor
Summon
to
it to me. And I mean, it's not, you know, it's probably an accident, but that's...
Yeah. Maybe. He is working in the new suit in Avengers is the suit that can come to him when he has the bracelets. The Mark,
yeah.
whatever, what is it, Mark 42 or something?
Yeah, but this is a more direct kind of, you know, he makes a hand motion when it comes to him.
Yeah.
And there's the scene in Avengers where Thor is fighting the Hulk and he does this and it comes to him like it's...
I did like at the end when Thor and Hela were fighting, or when Thor's sitting on the throne and like summons Hela with the staff, with Odin's staff.
Wow.
Yeah. And they both spout out half of a saying that Odin would used to say to them. Like a good king
doesn't seek war, but he's
always
ready for
always ready for it. So they're two sides of the same coin.
See, that is where having an actual trilogy that was building... Like, what if the entire trilogy built to this reveal?
Yeah.
Built to this reveal that Odin isn't what you thought he was. But then Thor finds this out, incorporates it into his worldview, and still delivers the line with a new meaning, but delivers the line, a good king doesn't seek out war. So like, yes, at one point he was a conqueror, but you know what? At that time he was a bad king.
Yeah.
And he wanted to be a good king.
And
So
he
he changed, and people can change. Just like I think Loki can change, and just like I know
Just
I
like I'm
changed.
changing.
Yeah. And yeah, no, it was good, and I liked it. Was a good kind of... That was a good piece of writing right there, you know? I hate good pieces of writing in otherwise trite and contrived garbage. But yeah, I so you didn't see the trailer. I saw the trailers before this movie.
I saw the teaser.
What was in it? What was in the trailer?
I knew that there was Hulk in it. Basically.
Okay, so this is what I want to talk about. The trailer for me ruined this movie because more so than any other of the trailers always ruin movies because they give away the plot, and it's like. But the thing about the trailer for this movie didn't give away the plot because you couldn't.
What plot?
Yeah, but what it did give away was Thor's hammer getting destroyed. That the Hulk was in it.
Oh God!
Yeah.
Take that away.
Yeah. Okay, maybe not destroyed, but caught.
Oh, caught.
So
okay.
there's a scene of her stopping the hammer, and you're like, what? Who could do that? The hammer, Hulk, and what was the other thing? The hammer, the Hulk, and lightning Thor, like Raiden Thor. That he somehow figured out a way to summon lightning just in and of himself. We're all given away in the trailer.
Oh,
and the thing about like one, Thor's hammer getting destroyed. Or at least even stopped. That would have been mind-shattering. I would have loved to have seen that for the first time in the movie, in context.
Do you remember the first time you saw Kylo Ren stop that blaster bolt in The Force Awakens?
I was like, how?
I gasped. I was like, what the hell? If that was in the trailer, it would have been ruined. I don't know. I didn't watch the trailers.
I can't remember. But yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean, and that's where like The Last Jedi, when Luke turned out to not be there, I didn't get it at all. Like it was, and upon watching it again, I'm like, oh my god, he doesn't have any footprints, and like it's so obvious. His hair is different. He looks younger. Like there's so many things.
He's got his lightsaber.
He's got his different lightsaber. Like he's got the lightsaber that they should already have. Like
that they showed exploding.
Yeah, like there's so many hints. But I was just so jazzed about the fact that Luke had showed up and so distracted by it, just like Kylo Ren was. I was right there. I was in the moment, exactly where the filmmaker intended me to be. Yeah, and so that's the kind of experience you can only get if nobody gave you context beforehand. You just went into it blind.
I was thinking of this one as well. When there's the big reveal of like who's the champion?
It's built,
who's the champ?
The green smoke, and he's like the incredible. You know, it's so and much build, and then the Hulk breaks out, and then you have if I didn't know he was coming, I would have had the exact same reaction as Thor. Like, oh my god, it's the Hulk! This is incredible. That would have been awesome, but we didn't get that. We don't get to have these experiences anymore because they're so afraid we won't go see the movie, as if that's even an option at this point, that they have to just fucking give it all to us in the trailer.
I've read some things that apparently trailers that give away the plot actually help movie sales.
Yeah, but don't
it ruins the movie
enjoyment.
It ruins the movie experience, but it helps the sales.
I fucking hate capitalism. I really do. I know it's like the best of a lot of bad worlds, but like it just sucks the life out of everything, Steve. It really does. Because it forces them to lie to us, you know, to just misrepresent the experience you're going to get. I would rather not know. Like, that's why we've both been doing this thing where we're desperately trying not to see any of the Infinity War trailers or get any information about them, which is really fucking difficult. Like, just being on Facebook, you're living in fear because this shit just pops up out of nowhere. That's one thing where you don't want to have stuff spoiled, or you don't want to go into the movie with any kind of expectation, because you can only see a movie for the first time once. And so that's a precious thing to me. I wasn't precious about it for Thor Ragnarok. It's not something I do for all movies, but it's something I do for Star Wars, and it's something I do for the big MCU tickets, right?
Yeah.
And that's one thing, is just having a movie spoiled because they're so afraid you won't go see it that they have to just give you all the best moments and all the best. The same with comedies, they give you all the best jokes before you ever see the movie.
Ugh.
But then they have this thing where they just lie. So there's a scene in the trailer that is literally just as long as it is in the movie of the Valkyries riding Pegasi to attack Hela, and you're like, that looks like the fucking coolest thing I've ever seen. Thor is going to go and find some Asgardian warriors, heretofore never mentioned, and they apparently ride Pegasi because that's something that they do, and then maybe they live on maybe they're not even Asgardians, maybe they're from one of the other realms, and we're finally going to see one of the other realms get involved in something, and he's going to bring them back, and they're going to like fight this, and they're going to like be riding around on flying horses, she's going to be throwing swords at him, and I am fucking jacked, ready for this to happen. And then it is nothing but a flashback. It is Loki puts his hand on Tessa Thompson's head and is like, you have a bad memory about Hela, show it to us.
Womp.
And that's it. And you see literally what you saw in the trailer, which is a slow motion shot of a bunch of women on Pegasuses charging Hela, all getting killed, and then just dropping to the floor.
Yeah.
And that's the end of that.
Yeah, it's the Amazing Spider-Man 2, was it, that did it as well?
Andy Garfield?
Where the trailer was like Rhino.
Oh,
that was the trailer, that scene. And then it's not in the movie until right at the very end.
Yeah. Rhino isn't even Rhino. It's just Paul Giamatti as like an Eastern European gangster
in a giant rhino suit.
No, but I mean, he's in the movie before as a regular person, and then he just magically gets a rhino suit at the end. You know? Oh, movies! Why you keep doing this to us?
Something I noticed in this movie, which I imagine won't have any consequences because Asgard exploded, but Thor gets bitten by the dog and his blood goes into the water.
That's true.
And last time, Hulk gets bitten by...
Hulk, yeah. See, it's hard.
It is. And his blood goes into the water. And last time that happened, Stan Lee turned into Mini Hulk, I guess.
That's true. I guess.
So wherever the Asgardian water goes when it falls off the edge of Asgard and into space...
Sakaar? I guess.
So someone there is going to have some gamma exposure.
Also just setting... That's the first time Hulk's been injured.
Yeah, it's the first time something's
pierced his
skin.
Because usually, my understanding of the Hulk in every incarnation I've ever seen is the more you hurt him, the stronger he gets, the
Yeah.
thicker his skin gets, and the bigger he becomes. Like,
Yeah.
that's the first time I've ever seen anything actually draw blood from the Hulk. So that's kind of nuts.
Yeah. Yeah, which is like...
Also, that wasn't in the Incredible Hulk. It was Bruce Banner's blood,
Yes.
which was red,
That was true,
and
actually.
this is Hulk's blood, which is green. I'm not sure what the difference is, but I don't know. It's probably more irradiated.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It does show that Hulk is vulnerable to things. We don't know what those things are besides a zombie dog reanimated by the Eternal Flame.
Oh god. Oh, this movie is terrible. This is, I think what was it, in Doctor Strange, in one of the other podcasts, I made the point that you probably liked these, yeah. So if you're the listener who is listening to this podcast and saw these movies, probably liked them, and so did I. And it's not, I still kind of like them. I didn't have a bad time watching the movie.
I had a lot of, like, there's a lot of literal laugh out loud moments.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun, and a lot of cool superhero things happen.
Yeah.
But, and I didn't go into this podcasting endeavor meaning to become so, like, intensely critical of storytelling, but that's, apparently, on reflection, that's what I was getting out of Marvel, is, like, what I really like about it is stories about people with these abilities. It's not about the abilities, it's not about the spectacle, it's not about the showdowns. I like the stories, and this is one of the much, much weaker ones.
Yeah, the story here is probably the weakest part of this movie.
And her army looks like Scooby-Doo bad guys.
Yeah.
Like, they look very cartoonish.
Yes, they do.
Like, in a non-threatening way. In a kind of, I'm really expecting someone to just rip off one of their masks and go, I would have got away with it too if it wasn't for you meddling kids.
Yeah, it's just another nothing bad guy with an army of nothing minions to do her bidding, to take over everything. Because that's what Marvel do for most of their villains.
Mm.
And, like, for what we know of the comics of Thanos, and his whole obsession with death and courting death, it would have been perfect if they didn't kill her off by having a giant mountain-sized fire demon stab her with a sword and then explode the planet she was on. But no, they had to kill her. It would have been amazing if she was the personification of death.
Actual death.
That Thanos is trying to court, and that she's been locked away for all this time by Odin. And maybe, I don't know, it just would have been great.
And it would have been Cate Blanchett.
And it would have been Cate Blanchett. As much as a problem that I had with her portrayal of the character, I didn't like her way over the top vamping. Yeah, is the term that you let me know earlier. I didn't like it the first time. The second time I saw the movie, I knew what I was going into, so it was more okay. But the first time, it really threw me. For every scene she was in, I was like, what is going on here?
I think it was an example of an incredibly talented actress doing the best she could.
Okay.
Like with what she was given. Like, it was a very thin character.
All of her dialogue is very not deep.
Yeah, it's canned. It's like, this is what bad people say when they're going to do bad things.
Yeah.
So let's have her say those things. But she gave it as much as she could, and it's the same. It's all the villains. It's all these incredibly talented actors that they get to play. They're nothing villains, and the incredibly talented actors do their absolute best to give you the best that they can, but nobody can. Nobody can elevate bad writing into a good movie. Also, Led Zeppelin have other good songs, guys. They have more than one song. Like, Immigrant Song is the most. I'm not going to say overused, but it is very thoroughly used.
Yeah.
Like, this is not the first time Immigrant Song has been used in a trailer for a movie this century, and it's not only is it used in the trailer, but it's used twice in the movie.
Yes.
Once in a completely inappropriate way, where he's just fighting this random demon who we've no context for, except for the fact that he told a little story at the start to a skeleton and then dropped on a chain.
Yeah.
And then had to fight a bunch of demons and then a dragon and then...
Yeah, it was a very Thor opening, because that's how all the Thor movies start.
Sure,
Thor on an adventure, doing
fighting
something.
a thing, yeah. But it was cool. It was cool at the end when he's like, what are you the god of again? Fucking thunder, bitch. And he explodes and he's lightning now. And he just glides to the ground and just starts lightning all the mooks. Like, that was cool. And it was cool that Immigrant Song was playing, but you know what? It wasn't as cool as it could have been.
Because
it wasn't as cool
already.
Yeah, it wasn't as cool as it could have been if the entire rest of the movie we had this brand new, like, synthwave, cool, thumping electro soundtrack, and then right at the end, fucking old school rock and roll.
Yeah.
With a song about Vikings. You know, it's
yeah, I don't know why it was used twice.
Because because they're fucking lazy, Steve. Because they have this like one good idea, and they're like, how many times can I use this one good idea in a single movie? How many times can I copy and paste my best idea? So let's see, we can put it right at the start, just to kind of kick things off with some rock and roll. And then I think what we'll do is we'll call it back at the end, where what we'll do is the exact same thing. We'll have him get into a battle at the end, and we'll do the exact same thing where we'll just play that song. And you know what? You know what would be even better is we could prime everybody for both of those occurrences by playing it in the fucking trailer. We'll put it in the trailer as well, and we'll overlay all of those scenes that you're going to see it with in the movie, where he's fighting demons and then he's fighting other demons.
First were red demons, now they're green demons.
It's just so lazy. Oh. That's kind of all I have. I went through all of my points really quick this time.
The only other things that I have are like some nice things. The choir, the cut to the actual choir singing the operatic theme.
Oh, I've forgotten it again. There's a word for when music is in a movie, but it's like...
Oh, actually in the scene?
Oh, no, don't forget. I'll think of it.
But yeah, that like, cut to the choir, I laughed. I laugh every time at that. It's perfect.
Yeah. And the play it's fun.
And Matt Damon is in it.
Yeah. That was a really funny... And Matt Damon and also Luke Hemsworth, the other Hemsworth, who doesn't get enough play.
Other than that... Everybody seems to know that Odin isn't on Asgard. Like, Surtur knows Odin is on Asgard.
Everyone except Thor.
Yeah, from his, like, demon hell hole that he lives in.
And I would be fine with Thor not being up to date if we got to see some scenes of Thor. Like, he keeps talking about how I've been travelling around the universe, like, looking for Infinity Stones or, like, looking for information about things. We don't see any of it. It's just him telling people that he does these things.
Yeah. Other than that, I don't have much... The Valkyrie disintegrates like 30 people the first scene we see her. There's like 30 people, they're trying to eat Thor, and she just disintegrates them all. With her, whatchamacallit? Yeah, with her like gauntlets that control her arm cannons on her ship.
Yeah. That was a cool ship.
It's a cool ship. It's a really nice ship.
That's another nice thing we could say, is that all of the set design and props and like just all the design work in the movie is very cool.
It's like really interesting, really out there. Fits in well with
Sakaar
and the multiverse-esque direction that the MCU is going in.
Yeah, like it fits. It does seem. It seems like they make Sakaar into a planet that you could imagine the Guardians landing on for fuel or something. Like
and they even mention the Nova Corps planet,
Xandar. Yeah.
Xandar. Valkyrie mentions it.
That could be if we could try and get back, it would take about 18 months. We'd have to stop
off at Xandar and refuel.
Like, no, we're going to go through the devil's anus. Thanks.
And I don't really have much more to say about this movie myself. It was full of jokes. It was a hot mess. I did not like it on first viewing. My second and third viewing, because I knew what I was getting into, I liked it more.
I felt very bad for Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah.
He was relegated to the god of history.
Yeah.
The only other thing, before we get into final thoughts, is I would have loved if at the end, so there's the end credit scene post-credit scene where the Grandmaster like stumbles out of his escape pod or whatever, and he's like set upon immediately by the Junkers.
Yeah.
I'd have loved if the Collector showed up.
Oh, that would have been perfect.
And it's like
you see all that Thor and Jeff Goldblum on the screen at the same time.
They didn't even need to say anything, just because it could have been like Big Brother showing up to help his little brother, or vice versa.
Yeah.
And just kind of look at each other, and because we've already copped that they have the same lip thing.
Yeah.
So they look like the same, if not the same species, the same club.
Yeah.
And it would have been cool, and he could have like put a hand out and be like, we have work to do. Thanos, like, stuff's brewing, like, because that's
we're gonna get these before Thanos.
Yeah, exactly, because that's the thing about what we were saying. It waxes and wanes, but in the first phase, all of the post-credit scenes were meaningful and led into something and were teases for what was to come. And then in the second phase, they were more like jokes and they weren't so important. And then it's kind of it's been
coming
and going.
Depends on the movie now.
Like in Ant-Man, both of them, they were setups for 2 different movies, for example. But then in a lot of other ones, they were just jokes and they didn't really mean anything, or it wasn't worth your while staying around. You could have just looked up what happened online because it wasn't giving you any taster for what's happening next. The way, like, you got the literal scene from Ragnarok in Doctor Strange's post-credit scene, and that's just, for me, instead of it just being a joke about the Grandmaster, especially because we didn't get to see the revolution, we didn't get to see what happened, we have no context for him crawling out of this escape pod that we assume it is. It would have been cool if instead you could have used that scene to have the Collector show up and be like, we need to stop fucking around because things are accelerating or whatever, you know. Not that that's what's going to happen, but that to me is, that would, you would make me a lot more interested in Infinity War if not only is Thanos going to arrive with his army of whatevers and fight the whatchamacallums, in the background Jeff Goldblum and Benicio del fucking Toro are also going to be trying to just get the stones by their own means.
Around and grabbing those stones.
Okay, so closing thoughts. What did you like about? Did you like it? Did you want to? Would you recommend this movie to a 40-year-old virgin?
Yes. Yeah, it's this, like, I've heard so many things about this. People seem to love it. I don't get why so many people enjoy it so much, or like there's rave reviews of it, because I see so many problems with it. I enjoyed it. It's a fun movie. It's a strange Taika Waititi mess, but it has its problems, but it's fun to watch.
I think the reason why, I think you're a lot more likely to like this movie if you don't give a shit about Marvel. If you just enjoy movies and the Marvel Cinematic Universe and the
are a lot of movies
and
that
yeah,
are
it's just,
good to watch.
they're just stuff that you can watch. I think if you don't care about Marvel, and the thing is, until this, I didn't really care about Marvel. I really enjoyed the movies, but I mean, I would have said I was like, Star Wars would have been a lot more important to me than the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and I would have had a much more emotional connection to, or like reaction to, say, The Last Jedi than pretty much anything in the Marvel canon until now. Until now, I've like, Marvel has been my life for these last few months of, and you know, writing movies and taking notes and, you know, really teasing out what it is I like and what it is I don't like and what I think works and what I think doesn't work.
Yeah.
Now that it matters and I'm paying attention, I don't like this movie, but still, having said that, I have to, like, objectively, I can see what you would like about it.
Yeah.
Assuming you don't care about the implications of it. So if you're just watching it as an action movie with some crazy neon blood dragon kind of elements,
it's very Blood Dragon-esque.
I can see where a rave review could come in for that, because and it's refreshing. Like, it's definitely, you know, there are a lot of kind of dour, bleak and samey Marvel movies, and this is not one of them.
No,
it definitely tries to do a bunch of interesting things, and
it is one of those movies that has a vision.
Yeah,
it's a crazy vision, but it is a vision.
Yeah, no, like I said, and I don't want to be a hypocrite. Like, I respect anybody who actually just writes a story and puts it on screen and doesn't kowtow to a committee on what should be in a movie and what shouldn't.
Yeah. Problem here being that they just aren't true to the characters that we know, or as we know them.
Exactly. So yeah,
that's Ragnarok.
Take from that what you will. Next up is motherfucking Infinity War. I mean, next for you guys listening is going to be Black Panther.
I think Black Panther. Yeah.
Black Panther, and then, but yeah, we're that's it. We'll probably do a predictions podcast,
which would be hard because I haven't seen anything.
Yeah, but you can predict anyway.
Yeah.
And then we'll watch Infinity War. I should probably get some sleep first.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm excited and worried.
I am anxious for sure.
Yeah,
but
I don't like. I was walking here today, and I passed by like a GameStop, and I had a poster for Infinity War like in front, and I was like filled with a sense of like nervousness. Of like, how are they going to do this movie? There are so many people in it. How?
There's way too many people. That's what I kind of. That's where the reason the Avengers worked so well was because they had all those movies that set up the characters, and we understood them, and we understood where they were coming from and where they were going, and so you didn't need any of that, right? And so that's obviously what they're going to have to do in Infinity War, is just go into it with the assumption that everybody understands these characters and their motivations and what they have, what they're bringing, and what they want out of this story.
Yeah, and we'll get a few key characters: Cap, Iron Man.
Yeah, no, we'll get some characters who'll have an actual role, but everybody else will just be sort of filling in their place on the team.
Yeah.
But the reason why I've been so hard on the last, the last 6 or 7
phase
movies, 3 movies, is because the characters' trajectories are just going wildly off course, and it means that going into Infinity War, it's not going to have that same cohesive element that made the team work. Because, like, as we kept saying, there's no opt-in. There's no scene where they all sat down and were like, "We're going to be the Avengers now."
Yeah,
they just did it. And we went along with it because we had this understanding of them as people and as characters and as heroes, and so it made sense. It felt organic, and we were willing to follow it. But now I'm not as willing as I was. I don't feel as connected, or like I have a grasp on people's motivations, and that's why I really gravitate towards Nebula, and I really want Nebula to kill Thanos, because Nebula I understand, and Nebula is fucking consistent.
Yeah.
She just has a fucking beef with Thanos, and she's gonna lay into him with everything she's got, and we've seen how she lays into people, and I can't wait to see her crash a fucking ship into Thanos like you suggested.
Oh man, it'll be perfect. it's how the Guardians or Nebula have to arrive.
Yeah.
Like, Thanos is on Earth and he's doing his thing, and then wham! We're here to save the day. We're the Guardians of the Galaxy. And then, like, rock music is blaring out of their ship, and everyone's like, "What the fuck is this?"
And then Tony's just quietly like, "Hey, turn on my speakers. I want to play some AC/DC."
Yeah.
But okay, Thor Ragnarok. It's all right.
Yeah. It's a good time if you like. It's a good comedy movie.
Sure. So, yeah, listen to. If you're listening to these in order, don't worry. We're way more excited about Black Panther. So, and we're a lot less harsh in that one. So enjoy that, and then join us next week for fucking Infinity War.
Yeah.
I've been Danny.
I've been Steve.
This is the Saturated Industry Podcast.